Thank you. And we will move to tonight's agenda. The first item is the adoption of the agenda for November 19th, 2025. Are there any corrections or additions? Hearing none, the agenda is adopted as presented. We're going to move to the next item, which is establishing an award resolution. So our next item again is the award resolution for Julia Bonaparte Enos Special Education Scholarship Fund. Before we move to the resolution, I'd like to take a brief moment to acknowledge Julia's dedication to our district and her lasting impact on students with special needs. Please join me in a moment of silence in her honor. Tonight, we are honored to formally establish the Julia Bonaparte Ennis Special Education Scholarship Fund. This scholarship was made possible through a generous gift from her husband, who wished to ensure that Julia's legacy of compassion, advocacy, and excellence will continue to support generations of Schenectady students pursuing pathways in special education. This resolution recognizes the creation of the scholarship fund to be implemented in collaboration with our district's leadership team. At an appropriate time, the district will work directly with Mr. Ennis, who's her husband, to finalize how the scholarship will be awarded to our students. May I have a motion to approve establishing an award resolution, Julia Ennis Special Education Scholarship Fund? Thank you, Board Member Kathy. That was a motion. Second?
Second.
Thank you, Board Member Alexandria. Any discussion?
This is a beautiful gesture. As a parent of a special needs child myself, I am incredibly touched on behalf of any student who would receive the honor in getting this scholarship award. So thank you very much. And we're very sorry for your loss.
Yes. Thank you, Board Member Vivian. Any other thoughts? Our condolences go out to the family and to your husband, and to her husband. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries to approve establishing an award resolution, Julia Ennis Special Education Scholarship Fund. Thank you again. Thank you. Okay. The next item on the agenda are the consent agenda, which includes routine items approved together unless a member requests removal. Would anyone like to remove an item? Hearing none, may I have a motion to approve consent agenda items 4A through H? May I have a motion?
Yeah.
Yep. Thank you, Board Member Kathy. Second?
So moved.
Thank you, Board Member Amanda. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, the motion to approve consent agenda items 4A through H carries. Our next agenda item is the Senegal Immersion Field Trip Experience. I'm just going to share a few things about this presentation. So this presentation aligns with Policy 8140, which is DEI and Policy 8460 field trips, as well as several other academic policies that promote rigorous learning, global awareness, multilingualism, and cultural competencies. This evening, we are joined by Mr. Sangare, yes, and Mr. Bosch, several of our students, and also family members who are here to support their children. They will be walking us through the academic, cultural, and linguistic benefits of this immersive program in Senegal, including how the experience supports language development, deepens global understanding, and strengthens cultural connections. And this is exciting, I must say. So we would like to welcome you up to the podium to share information about the experience.
Well, thanks for the pronunciation of my name too. That was.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. And welcome again. Welcome.
Yes, thank you. Thank you.
You're
Good
welcome.
evening. Right, really, we appreciate the board having us tonight. So I know that's a very exciting moment for us, and we're very happy and very thankful. So before we start, I will also just address the students, because this has happened because of them. So they push, they show dedication, they show devotion, abnegations, and all through like 4 to 5 years when we first start talking about the project. And then here we are today. So, and then I will just say thank to the student and their family for pushing us really to get this to this point today. So we will really start the presentation with just giving you a little background of the Afro-African diaspora, which is really a result of what the student have been doing since, what we have been doing since 5 years with our student. And we just find a good platform, a platform that would help us really serve the student when it's come to this type of trip, understanding the Afro-African diaspora, which is not just Senegal, but all over around the world. So Senegal district is just a first, and there's going to be any other more trip, to the Caribbean, to other places, just connected to what we do in the district. So the Afro-African diaspora is just a 501c that we created, right, in order to really to be able to serve our kids and then work with our district and any other staff and students around the capital region who really have the interest to know history of the diaspora. So that's, and our students really, they're the one who push us to just come to this point, to register and then start working towards that, and here we are today. So without further ado, I just don't want to have the floor and just explain. We want the student themselves, really, we know they know the project more than we do. So they're very excited. We will let them really explain the program and what we go. So they're going to introduce themselves and then just start explaining the program and how it's connected to what they do in the school, to the curriculum. We just tie it to the curriculum, really. So, and this is our mission statement. I just went over that. Oh, Dakar. This is United States, New York, and that's Dakar. That's the trajectory. So we will leave New York, JFK, and then cross the ocean and be in Dakar in 7 hours and 47 minutes. One day trip. Simple. One shot, direct flight. No, nothing. Direct flight from JFK to Dakar. And then the fun will start. And we have our students first to introduce themselves. Today, we have 3 students who's going to speak. Liza.
Hi, my name is Liza Mullen. I'm.
Hold on a second.
Oh.
Yeah. I'm just gonna have one with Amir and Fanta. So. Yep. Yes. Yes. Nasima also. She's here.
Surrey is coming too.
All right. So nice. Go ahead.
We have one who had a death in the family, so they couldn't come.
Okay. Let me try that again. My name is Liza Mullen. I'm in 11th grade. I'm in the ECHS program. Some leadership that I do. I'm in the Student Advisory Council that Mr. Koto is also in. And I also do some youth activism work in the community as well. This project is really important to me because I think something about my education is that I value that it's immersive, and I think the best way to immerse myself in culture is being there, having the opportunity to go there, and that's why it just means a lot to me.
Well, hello everyone. My name is Amir Miles, and I'm in 11th grade. I mainly go to the main campus of Schenectady High School as well as BOCES throughout the afternoon. And the reason why this project is important to me is because, as you can probably tell, I am of African American descent. And I think that I do owe it to my family and my ancestors who were probably brought here by the transatlantic slave trade to know a bit about what was going on in Africa and some of the stuff that was surrounding the events of the transatlantic slave trade. The reason why I think I should go on this trip is because I would say that a lot of people know my voice in the high school. A lot of people could recognize me, and I think that I would be able to spread the message a little bit more efficiently than most other students.
Hi everyone, my name is Fanta Sisi. I am a Schenectady student at Schenectady High School. I'm a senior and I'm in visual learning arts as a VPA community. And the reason why this project is really important to me, I am as well African, so I love learning more about my culture. I love learning more about Africa, and the reason why I feel like this is a good trip, like why am a good pick for this trip, is because I already being African, it's like more for me to further my education about the African culture, the Black history about this, and it will be very helpful for me as well.
Hi, my name is Nasima Poinsett. I'm a senior and I'm a part of the early college high school program, so I go to school full time at the community college downtown. And the number one thing for me is that I believe that knowledge is power, and knowledge comes from experience. There's only so much that textbooks can help you understand, and there's only so much you can learn through a piece of paper. So I feel like really immersing yourself in the world and being able to have experiences where you can expand your knowledge is really important, especially as a young adult and trying to develop into an adult and see the world for yourself.
Hello, my name is Serenity Palmer. I'm in 11th grade and I go to Schenectady High School in Proctors. And this project's important to me because I come from a lower class and it feels like our opportunities are limited, but having opportunities like this is it's amazing and it's a first. And in my family, I'm the first for a lot of things as well. So yeah, that's why it's important to me.
I don't know if I have to add anything. This is cool. Thank you, guys. So now I'm just gonna give you really what we have been doing since preparing this trip. We went to Senegal ourselves first last year, and then we went through the routes when we meet with the Department of Education. These are the department people of Senegal, the Department of Education. We went also to visit museum, talk to the leaderships and all the people that needs to be talked to. So I think we mapped out wherever we want to go for all kind of reason. So, and we came back. So these are really, those pictures just shows that. And then we can elaborate a little bit more on that. So now we visited also the schools. We have in that program, we got what we call the academic activities. So we're gonna have the school. We link with 3 schools, 1 private, Catholic schools, 1 public school, one of the best in Senegal, and 1 international school, bilingual. So we talk with the leaderships there. Also, they're gonna have us in their school for a day, academic journey. So our students will have to now practice their French and then just talk with peers, and then we'll see what's gonna come up out of that. So just to tie to what they do there and what we do here, when they talk about the 5C, the comparisons piece, it's just what we're gonna have to put out there when we get there. So, and let me see. Okay, so now how we tie this to our curriculum. The student will explain to you how what we are going to do there is really tied to our curriculum here in the United States, what they learn in the classroom.
Okay, so just some couple basic standards that we know we have to meet. It's reading, research, discussions, vocabulary, and cross-cultural writing. And I think firstly, we're gonna hit the cross-cultural writing and language very quickly because we're gonna be interacting with students our age who they may not speak English, or we have to better our French to be able to talk to them. And an activity that I think will help is that we're gonna be doing some interviews with the students during our academic day. The 2 schools that we have here, the top one is going to be the Lycée des Applications. This is a public school, and then at the bottom we have the L'École Saint-Marie de Han. And this is a private school that has IB programs, and it's pretty international. So not only are we gonna be interacting with students from Senegal, but all over. And then we'll also be doing some student research days, and then from those days and those interviews after spending time in school, we're going to be doing some reflection journals and cross-writing projects.
Okay. And what language? Standards.
Right. So, of course, as she already said, we do need to meet language standards, and in those language standards are the 5 C's, as I'm pretty sure he's already mentioned. But such as communication, which Liza already mentioned, we can compare our French with their French and be able to improve our own French based off of that. And we might even be able to learn a bit of English from them too, and help them with their English, as we are native English speakers. As for cultures, we can bring our culture to theirs, and we could maybe stand to learn a thing or two from them. Same thing with communication. we could also bring their culture back to the classroom and see how our differences are able to make us stronger. You know, like with their food or how their language might influence their writing and whatnot. As for connections, we can use the connection that we get from them in order to better our own connections via comparing our language, as I think I've already said. Being able to speak our languages more efficiently is going to be able to strengthen our connections, not only inside the classroom, but also, I'd say, across the school, just in general. Also, being able to understand each other and speak with each other more freely and calmly, it'll build a stronger community because we'll be able to connect with each other on a deeper level.
Ambassadors. Okay, social studies and history.
So I will be explaining the historical and history about how this Senegal trip will help us learn more about Black history. So the Ile de Gore, la Musée des Maisons d'Esclaves, it was a home. It was a traditional building for enslaved Africans during the Atlantic slave trade. So that's where Africans were encamped before they took their voyage over the Atlantic Ocean. And in that house, you get to see how Africans lived during slavery times and a little more about how their lives were. The Musée de la Civilisation Africaine is a museum filled with artifacts and arts of stuff that were used during, again, slavery, and you get to see it in person rather than the things we learn at school. We learn it in books, but it's more better and authentic seeing it in real life and actually being there to see how it is. And lastly, Le Musée des Femmes Africaines. It's an African museum solely for African women, specifically Senegalese women, and you get to see the aspects of how they lived as well. Similar to Le Musée de la Civilisation Africaine, this is just a women solely museum. So all these artifacts and places and sites make us learn more about our African heritage, the history of Africans, and we get to apply that to the things we use in school and also get to bring it back in Schenectady and teach it to more of our students.
Science standards.
Me again. So I think that if we're able to go over there, we can see the effects of colonization as well as decolonization, because I'm sure, as most of you know, European colonization of Africa caused the Europeans to take most African resources, such as diamonds and gold. We can probably, or we most likely will see the effects of that if we are able to go to safaris and whatnot. There is a museum called the Cheikh Anta Diop Museum. It's named after a scientist, and that I believe he was responsible for carbon dating or discovering the origins of humanity, which I'm sure, as most of you know, are Africa. I think that we would be able to learn a lot about ourselves and humanity if we were able to go over there.
To math now.
All right.
And the fun facts and stuff.
It's me again. So other things like that kind of intertwine with math that we're trying to hit is probably the architecture aspect of it. And there is a monument in Senegal that's called the Monument de Renaissance Africaine. And fun fact, this is 53 meters, and the man who built this, his name was Pierre Goudabi, and he graduated from Rensselaer Polytech, so close to home. And I think just being able to see that, even this picture, I thought that that was just a bridge, but those are stairs. You have to climb up all of those to get up there. So that'll be a fun experience for all of us. So I think it's cool that the science definitely hits home. We can connect that back as well. And then, as Fanta was talking about with Goree Island and the door of no return, part of when you're talking about the transatlantic slave trade and how they were treated in before they left is the numbers, right? It's very hard being analytical of how many people truly, were killed or, how many families were lost. And I think once you step into that space, not only is it, like mind blowing, but then we're gonna get the true authentic numbers and, know the facts there, which I think is important.
So now, and yeah, that's it. So I think what we have here, yep, the Martian Catamount. So there's things that was tied to the curriculum, what they're gonna do, and after all this like learning, so we will just have to really travel through Dakar now and enjoy what Dakar has to offer. So we will be go to the market, like the local market, so visit, and then how they will communicate with things like bargain buyings and talking and stuff like that. So we will also ride the trains and stuff like that in Dakar, just to give them the sense of how people live there. And then we would invite also some of the peers from those schools. They're gonna go with us. And this is the tour of Dakar. And the Lac Rose also, this is like the pink lake. So the lake is pink. So, and it's like, it's really pink. And then
It has a high concentration of salt too. Which
Yes.
also-
And then they export salts and then just people goes there. So really it's very beautiful. It's a very touristic area and very known for the Rally Dakar. People who run from Paris to Dakar with motorcycles and stuff, that sport. So they go to this lake. This is the ends of that Rally Paris Dakar. Yes, Lac Rose. And then, yep. So I think this is now also Mr. Sudari gonna have to explain this.
We didn't call each other before we.
It just happened.
It just happened. So we thought safety is extremely important because we're all parents, and when you're taking somebody else's child across the country, people always want to know what's going to happen. Africans, sometimes when you go to Africa, people always think everywhere in Africa is bad. So we had to talk to people. No, that's not true. Just stop watching TV. So too much. So safety is very important, and we had several meetings, not only with the students and also with the parents, and we let the parents ask us questions on a lot of things, and we vetted. We had one of our board member who is Senegalese, studies in Europe, and lives now in Senegal, in Dakar. She is the one who is our person who is putting everything together for us. So that way, everything is in, and she knows the place, she knows the hotel, she knows everything, she knows a place to visit, and she's planning this for us before we go. We have also we have 8 students, and we have three adults or 4 adults going, 2 other 2 teachers from Schenectady, and we also have a medical. We talked to Professor Sheck. He's sitting over there. Professor Sheck took some students last year from Union College. So we used their insurance company to connect with the insurance company to get information so we can get the same insurance plan for all our kids, medical insurance. We also have, we did some research on the U.S. Department of State about travel advisories. And according to the Department of State, there's 4 categories, 1 through 4. 4 being do not travel to those places. Senegal is number 1. So Senegal is the same level as France, Portugal, Spain, all the European countries. So which is really good. And all the thing is, it says exercise normal precautions, which is even in the US, it's always exercise normal precautions. And another thing we're gonna do is also we're gonna register our students with the Smart Travel Enrollment Program. So the Smart Travel Enrollment Program is called STEP that you do through the US, the Department of State. And the information goes to the US Embassy in Dakar. That they know we're all coming, and which is really good. If anything happened, God forbid, nothing's gonna happen. They know we're in there. One other thing we're gonna do also, we're planning on going to the embassy and meet with the ambassador, and also visit the embassy. That's one of the biggest embassy in West Africa. So the kids can see where the tax money is going. It's really big and nice. So, and what the step does is step gives you updates and alerts, whatever is happening. I think that's basically it, right?
Go to the next slide.
Next slide. So, hospitality. I mean, forget about everything we said. Food is the most important, the best thing in Senegal. When I was there last year, I'm telling you, I tried everything. So we went there. We spent some time with Mboye's family because Mboye's from there. He was born there. He went to school there. So we spent some time with his family members and their family. And I'm telling you, even though I'm from Niger, I have to say they have the better food than us. So Senegal is. I can't wait for you guys to try the food. It's really good. And so we have 8 students who are going, and including a student plus two teachers going, including airfare, round transportation, Albany, JFK back, food in the car, hotel, transportation in the car, all the mission fee and to historic sites. Will cost each one of the students $3,500. So we talked to the students about students will be responsible for getting their passports, vaccinations, medical evacuation insurance, and also any souvenirs that they would like to buy. So we talked to the kids, it's like, and they agreed. Parents said, yeah, that would be something that we can cover. So that's it.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to us.
You're welcome. Before we begin, each board member may ask up to 3 questions at the first round with follow-up, so everyone has equal time. We'll open for additional comments at the time, if time permits. And again, just to remind everyone, keep questions policy focused, be concise, respect one mic, one voice. Keep students at the center, honor diverse viewpoints. So, board member Kathy.
It sounds like it's very well organized, and I commend you for putting it together. And I have 2 requests. One, you got to tell us what the number of steps are in that when you come back. And the other is, I want to know how you're going to teach people to say Schenectady. And on a more serious note, have you all had French? I mean, how many years of French have you all taken? Or
4.
Oh, 4.
Yeah.
Oh, good. So you started in middle school.
7th, yes.
Yeah, middle school then. Oh, good.
I was born speaking French.
Oh, were you?
Yeah.
Well, that's really good because most babies don't speak that. Any others?
I took it for around a semester, and then it was just like the first 2 years back after COVID, so the language, it kind of fell through, but since then I still keep up with it on the side.
Serenity.
I took less than a year, my sophomore year.
Good. Good, well, good luck to you.
And the rest of the group now, they my students. Most of them they have them for 4 years. And this is my senior.
That's
And the other
great.
students have them
That's
all
long
from Central Park to the high school.
Yeah.
So I spent a lot of time with them. We did a lot of projects like around the world in Senegal history. So really, some of them weren't able to be here today because of families stuff. But yes,
That's great.
and then I have a very good story with this one here. When she was at Oneida, 6th grade, right? We went there, me and Yakub, after COVID, and then we were presenting, and she was so anxious to take French, right? And then she promised me, said, Mr. Boy, I'm just gonna take French. Okay, but the following year she started the French, and then I don't know what happened, right? Something happened, and then don't have no French teachers anymore. So I don't know what happened.
They didn't have French teachers.
Yeah, and that's why she asked to go to do something else.
Spanish.
ASL next semester.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you. Then, thank you, Board Member Kathy, and then Board Member Vivian and Board Member Alexandria.
Hi, good evening. So first of all, I'm very impressed with all of you. Very, very, very impressed. And you guys should all be very proud of yourselves. Please don't be nervous. Some of you guys look so nervous, but you guys did an amazing job with the presentation. So my question is for you all, the students, how did this come up as a topic of conversation? Like, how did this process get initiated? Who thought of this?
Okay, so I remember in 6th grade, this was hybrid learning, like right after COVID. Mr. Sangari was just telling me about Niger because that's where he's from, and then I remember Mr. Mboj coming in, just talking about all the great things that are there to experience in Senegal, and they kind of like approached, they're like, okay, what if we like came up with something to get you guys there, because if like you want to see it, we want to give students the opportunity to travel, and I jumped at it immediately, and then from there I've just been nagging them for 5 years, like, when's this gonna happen? Let's get the ball rolling.
We didn't have any choice.
We tried to use COVID so to see if they're gonna forget. So after and then after COVID, Liza was like, okay, COVID is over, so what are we gonna do?
I know that's right.
So we're like, okay, so that's how so she really kept us, and then we went to Senegal last year to do some.
Yeah. I heard about that and I was like, okay, so. All right, our turn.
No, that's awesome. That's awesome. Can't wait to hear back from the events of the trip. My second question, random. Where are passports going to be stored during this trip?
Well, the good thing about going to Senegal is you don't need a visa for Americans. So obviously, when we get there, we'll keep the passports
Okay.
so they don't get lost. If there's a safe in the hotel, probably we'll put them in there because that's very important. We need the passport in order to come back home. Yeah.
It's like you dropped it in the pink lake.
No, when I travel, that's the only thing that I know I'm not going to lose. I don't care if I lose my money, but my passport.
Right. Yeah.
You want to get back, right?
I want to get back. So.
Last question. So I saw in one of the previous slides, it was pre-departure orientation on health, culture, and safety. Could you please elaborate more specifically on what that entails, and what did you have to go over with your students?
So after we know we're getting, we're definitely going. And you can jump into.
Yes.
There's so many things, and Sheikh also can help. There's so many things orientation that we want to do. We want to talk about traditional things. We don't want to talk about we want to take them to a restaurant together, to a mall together, so they get to know each other. We want to tell them, listen, when you go to places like Africa, people are expecting to bring them a gift. So maybe bring something small, just in case somebody asks you. People might ask you, hey, can we exchange something? cultural things that maybe you see on TV that may not be true when you get there. What to wear, the weather, so many things, the language. You will be surprised. You may see people who are English might be better than yours. And you'll be surprised that they speak really good English. People might be speaking, they go through 4 or 5 different languages. And people might be talking, you might be thinking that they're fighting, but it's just conversation. Things not to say, or so many things.
Yeah, what I would add to that is just like first, our orientation is like first practice safety. So we're gonna do some drill. I know we do a lot of fire drills at school, a lot of drills. So to just like get into, in case something happened, how to keep the group, how to stay together and stuff like that. So before we leave, the group will just go together to the mall, go to stores and stores and learn how to stay together. How not to work fast or slow or just be left behind and things like that. How to check on each other, check the count as we go, as we move to Senegal. Because when we go to a market, we just have to go as a group and come out as a group. When we go to Gorée Islands, it's a lot of people coming from all over the world to visit. So we should be able to stay as a group. When they invite us to a place also, we just have to be always the group. So those routine, we want to get the student with the routine here before we leave. And they get to know each other. I don't know each other. They're not really friends. They may not know each other. So, but before we leave, we will be just like a very solid group. So now going to Senegal in the culture, you might know, you might not know, Senegal is called le pays de la teranga. The teranga means the welcoming country. So we've been open for a very, very, very long time. I was born and raised there, as my cousin and Professor Sheikh's over there. So then the people are very open-minded people, but open heart. They will genuinely smile at you and ask you, oh, what do you need? And talk to you. They're not shy just like this. No, they will talk to you. They will have a conversation with you. They will not want to know who you are. And they also want to learn from you. And this is the funny thing. They want always learn. They want to learn from you. Whatever you get, okay. And they very nice people also. And I want them to understand those things. But also, you don't want to offend them. It is a light country, meaning every religions are permitted. People are, once you get there, you may not even realize that Senegal is 95% Muslims because the way they wear things, they're more traditionals. So it's just like this alliance with culture, religion, and all those stuff, right? And the tolerance. You will never see someone who's gonna say, oh, you cannot see a person and know that he's a Christian or Muslim or anything else. No, they just like regular people going unless they say something, and they're all related. So you want them to understand those part of like the Senegalese culture, the openness, and then really a sense of liking people from foreigners and stuff like that. So we're just gonna prepare them on those things.
Yeah.
So once they get there, hey, they can, know what to say, how to, start a conversation, what they mean, what they say this and things like that. And then we're just gonna coach them as we get there because they just like, hey. And I know they may know something I just don't know because kids nowadays with all this thing they do. So there's a lot of things my own nephews and cousins and I don't know, it is just them. So we may also learn a lot from them, what they learn from the kids. So the cultural part, really, it's going to be a very good process for them to understand how people live there and learn how to respect others. So I think it is very important for them to understand other culture, right? Respect other culture to really have the sense of who they are and how they can earn respect. So they'll start person.
Are they being encouraged to wear traditional cultural clothing, or are we going as we are?
No, they go as they are. So if they want to now cultural clothes there, so hey, then they would get them from. They're gonna give it to them. Sheikh, I know Sheikh students here. You can jump in and just.
I can just add a few words. It's really impressive, to hear your students. It's as if they were there already, right? But safety, what you wear. So by the way, I'm at Union College. We've been taking students since 2011. So I do it every other year. I was there with 14 students last December for 3 weeks. It has been successful. Obviously, you have a few cases. Sometimes with them it's mostly related to food. Sometimes you eat something, your stomach
Can
reacts.
you come up some?
Yeah.
You mind coming up to the podium?
They
Yeah, thank you.
want to know.
Yeah, we want to hear it all.
So as I said, my name is Sheikh Njai. I teach French and Francophone Studies at Union College for now 24 years. And we started the study abroad program in Senegal as a joint program in 2011. This involved Union College, ACPHS in Albany, Albany College in Pharmacy, Health and Pharmacy Sciences in Albany, and then SUNY Albany. And then about 2015, since 2015, I'll be just the one running it. So it's exclusively union based, and we run it every other year. The minimum has been so far 8 students. Last year I had 40. So yes, as my colleague said, Senegal is really one of the safest places. I think you can look it up and you'll see when it comes to just political units, most of the democratic countries in the world. That's what we have had so far. We take students. The food is great, obviously. The culture is rich, as you did research about it. It's very, very diverse also, you'll see. So when it comes to safety, I know it's the number one question that always comes up from parents, for example. But the fact that they have a sort of host institution, but someone waiting for you who knows about it is critically important. We have that host institution that sort of welcome us and place our students. Our students stay with host families for 3 weeks. Because I want them to really have a full cultural and linguistic immersion. So 3 weeks, we do a lot of excursions, obviously, in Dakar, going to the museum, Gore Island, as I said, but outside of Dakar as well. And they take courses also with university professors. So it's a whole package. Again, what has happened through all of these years that really was, whoa, we didn't expect this is eating something, and then having reaction toward that. You want to take that into account, and the things that you can buy and take with you, in case that's happened. Insurance, I know we have Geo Blue. I think I mentioned that to you guys. Wonderful insurance, agency. So what they do is they take care of you really from here, all the way to Senegal, the entire state until you come back. Anything that happened to you, they work with local doctors across Senegal. I think about 10 doctors. So I had a few times a student who ate something, 3 a.m. and having some reaction. So I called, and when you do, they tell you, make sure to bring the student right away. Find a minute, you take a taxi, and they're there 3 a.m. Took care of them. Very, very skilled, doctors obviously working with GeoBlue. So GeoBlue has doctors everywhere in the world. We take students in France as well. Things happen everywhere. It's not just, So what to wear, what I could add to that is, you gotta just be smart when you go to a different culture. And my colleagues are from Africa, they know. You don't wanna expose, your body, especially girls, right? You don't wanna wear shorts, walking around and stuff like that. Just look around, wear pants. Traditional clothes. If you go to a place like Touba, I don't know if you guys planning.
No, we're not going.
Okay. So Touba is just a holy city. I tell my students that cover your head, and stuff like that. They do it, and it's really peaceful and no problem at all. Especially when you have a tour guide or someone who knows the place.
Thank you.
Thank you.
To add to what your question, a couple of years ago, I took my kids, and my kids were teenagers, and they couldn't believe how they couldn't believe how Americanized people are dressing. They thought it was going to be traditional. Everybody would be traditional. No, people are really dressed up like you see in Europe. So that's a big difference in between Senegal and a lot of places. So you can really I myself, I'll be wearing traditional stuff when I get there. But I want to blend in.
You wear whatever you want to wear.
No, just, and you guys also, you're probably gonna see something that somebody's wearing and say, oh, I want this. You know, you'll be wearing traditional stuff.
I'm pretty much sure they will give you a gift.
Oh,
Traditional
people will give you a
clothes. Yeah, they will give you a lot of traditional clothes. My wife is not from Senegal. When we travel to Senegal, we have like a closet full of clothes. Everybody gets something. Oh, this one. Oh, that looks nice on you. Take it. They look take it. Yeah. Really, she can't go wear all those things, but I know they would always give to you something from Senegal.
Because when you compliment somebody's dress, they would say, okay, you know, you have it. And even if you don't want it, they're gonna bring it and they're gonna give it to you. And you better take it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Board Member Vivian and Board Member Alexandria.
So first, I want to say that Mr. Amble, did I say it right?
Boj.
Boj
Yes,
was
you did.
gleaming with pride at everything that you young people were presenting today. Not only am I proud, you should be proud of yourself at the work that you've done to prepare for this trip. I'm so excited for you, not only for what you will learn, what you experience, but what you will feel in the presence of the car and have a firsthand experience on some of the things that have been omitted from our history book. So kudos to you, kudos to the educators that are making this happen. I feel like it's missing one thing, and that might be a board representative. Has anybody in mind? I really feel like that, Dr. Kodo. But the one thing, question that I have is how can I, as a board member, support you and your families to make sure that this isn't a financial burden on you? When you speak about having tokens, some things to give, I would love to be able to support your young people's effort as you travel. So again, just thank you, be proud of yourself. I'm so excited, I feel like I'm missing out. Like I am missing out, and congratulations.
Thank you.
Board Member
Several
Amanda.
comments made too. So I don't know if everyone knows this, but I did not grow up in the city of Schenectady. I grew up in Rotterdam, right next door. And our school did not do anything like this ever. We had maybe like one club where like you could go to like Ireland or something, but that to me was very like, it's cool. But like what you guys are doing is so important because you're, like Alexandria was saying, like you're filling in a lot of gaps that a lot of people who have already gone through school don't even know exist. So enjoy every moment of it. You know, make sure you don't take advantage of this because it is a huge opportunity, and I think it's going to open up a lot of doors for you guys.
This is amazing.
Yeah.
And there may be some open invitations.
I know. I mean, everyone has said it already, but you do not realize how this is going to change your life.
Yes.
It really is. It is amazing when you're able to immerse yourself. Many of you use that word, right? When you immerse yourself in other cultures, but not only that, culture that's ours. You know, it's powerful. And then what I'm going to charge you all to do when you come and present to us, you're going to present all in French.
Oh no, I don't know French. I gotta learn French.
No, but seriously, I am so happy for all of you. And again, you all have done, I've seen you before, and you've all done such a great job with the presentation and sharing with us why you should be there, what you want to learn when you get there. One thing I did want to ask though, what is making you the most excited?
Honestly, I think like the tourist locations.
The tour, okay.
Yeah.
I think just making friends like across the world and like being able to come back and knowing that you've made like friendships that transcend borders, I think is really important.
I think like seeing a different environment like is nice to see, like not something like you're used to, but seeing different things throughout the world is really helpful.
I would say being able to visit history-rich landmarks and, like we all said, immersing yourself in what you learned and being tangible and like feeling and seeing and touching and being able to see history.
I would say being the first to, like, in my family to be out of the country and, like, just to, like, experience different cultures and bring that back to my family and show them what I've learned. And, like they said, immersing myself as well. Yeah.
So just so you all know, we're here to support you, yes, and thank you both for doing this. And I think it's amazing that they're going to Senegal, because quite often it's, you know, your typical places that people go to, and I think it's awesome to know, right? Because I don't know how many people, and I don't know how many of you knew prior to being in their class that Senegal spoke French, right? And the culture and just, you know, it's amazing. I'm really happy for you all. And I might sneak into one of your luggages if so I can also be there. But thank you so much. We appreciate you. And thank you families for being here and supporting your children. Thank you so much.
One more thing.
Oh yeah, sure.
I just word of advice is while you're young, travel literally as much as you can. Go out of the country as much as you can because the older you get, the harder it gets. One of my biggest regrets is that I did not travel, and now I have a family and kids, and I have to wait till they get old. It's a whole thing. So please, throughout, if every opportunity you are given to travel, study abroad, do it all.
Take a tote bag about that big that opens up and expands.
Yeah,
Having traveled extensively, I recommend that. Because if you need, I mean, you might have to pay a little extra fare for it, but you at least could get your things back.
There you go.
Seriously.
All right.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Hey, so our okay, so we're so excited. Now, our next agenda item is the early literacy pre-K through second grade presentation. This presentation aligns with several of our core academic and instructional policies, including policy 7211, policy 7215, 8110, and 8140, which collectively support strong early learning, effective instruction, and the fundamental skills our youngest learners need to thrive. So we welcome all of you, and thank you, Assistant Superintendent Annalise Cruz.
Thank you. We are very distracted. Becky and I keep trying to figure out how we get into this trip.
I know.
We can get more ELA standards in that. So good evening, Dr. Cotto, members of the board, and to the Schenectady community. As mentioned, I'm Annalise Cruz-Pomey, and I'm joined by my colleagues and team members, Jessica Valente and Rebecca Gleason. We connected. All right, so anchored in our district's vision and tagline, our district will focus on early literacy as presented tonight. It will focus on equitable access for all students to research-based reading instruction. We'll also be talking a little bit about additional resources that are coming from NYSA that are aimed to ensure that the science of reading is also culturally responsive. And so making sure that everybody learns and everybody comes. Let me go back real quick. Again, we are uplifting our priorities around student and graduate success, beginning with our youngest scholars and connecting to policies around curriculum development, student resources, as well as diversity, equity, and inclusion. And for tonight, we're really going to focus on Tier 1 of the MTSS process. For context, in your packets, it's not on the slide, you will see the recent reading results of the National Assessment of Educational Progress, or NAEP, which has been administered since 1969. Nationally, in both 4th and 8th grade, reading scores continue to decline, noting a 5-point change since 2019 and a minimal change of 2 points since 2022. New York State has had significant changes on the NAEP from 2019 to 2024, but no significant changes post-pandemic in those last 2 years at 4th grade. We are seeing the steady decline in 8th grade, just like the nation. And so we wanted to give you that context before presenting our own data. In an effort to address this national literacy crisis, Commissioner Betty Rosa has placed accountability on New York State districts through the P3 attestation to ensure that all students have access to high quality education, specifically reading and literacy from pre-K to 3rd grade. If you look at the chart that's on this slide, it demonstrates our results from the 338 ELA exam in spring 24 and spring 25 here in Schenectady. You will note that here we've had increases from 3rd to 7th grade and a slight dip in 8th grade, but not a significant change. Prior to the P3 attestation, our district was moving towards the science of reading, both professional learning for leaders, teachers, and progress monitoring of indicators that move students towards high levels of literacy, such as letter identification by the end of kindergarten. On this chart, the red bars demonstrate results of kindergarten identification of uppercase and lowercase letters in June of 2025. And you can see that 83% and 73%. The goal for spring of 2026 is at 90% for both. We determined this after reviewing our spring data and really looking at some research behind how letter identification for native speakers is a key skill that is a precursor to other literacy learning. The kindergarten standards and ELA specifically point to students needing to know their letters to then build up to that new skill. So I'm going to turn it over to Jessica so she can talk about components of the P3 attestation.
Thank you. Good evening.
Good evening.
So in our last board presentation, Dr. McFarland was able to speak to you extensively about our tiered interventions and supports through her MTSS presentation. And she really emphasized that a strong focus on Tier 1 curriculum is essential to help reverse that upside down triangle. Today we are focusing on that Tier 1 curriculum. As you can see in this image, this is where our currently adopted programs are aligned to those 5 pillars of literacy. These programs are accessible to all students, including students with disabilities, in self-contained or co-taught classrooms, as well as our English language learners. So Education Law 818 was signed in May of 2024 and requires districts to conduct an annual review of their curriculum and instructional practices to ensure alignment with the science of reading. The attestation is organized around those 5 pillars of literacy that we just referenced on the previous slide, with the addition of oral language, which is now often considered the 6th pillar, as oral language is really foundational and forms the foundational for all literacy skills. Writing is also included in the attestation, along with alignment to the New York State Education Department Culturally Responsive and Sustaining Framework. So all districts in the state were required to complete and submit this attestation to the state by September 1st this year. When we refer to the science of reading, we are referring to the extensive body of research that has been conducted over several decades, which informs us how students learn to read. So the visual that you see on the right side of the slide here probably looks familiar, as we have referenced this in previous presentations that we have given. It is often used in professional development when discussing the science of reading. So this image is known as Scarborough's reading rope. So it was developed by Hollis Scarborough and illustrates the essential language skills and how they must work together to develop a skilled reader. So the bottom half of that rope focuses on word recognition skills. I'm actually going to go to the next, oh, just kidding, it's hidden. I think in your packets you might have a larger visual of this rope. That might be a little small to see some of the fine print, but the bottom half of this rope focuses on the word recognition skills, which are the early literacy foundational skills, such as your letter recognition, your letter sounds, syllables, and rhyming. And those components can be found within our Hegarty and Foundations programs. While the top half of the rope focuses on language comprehension skills, such as vocabulary, building background knowledge, your language structure, verbal reasoning, and those are built through our Wit and Wisdom program, geodes, which are the decodable texts that we have that are aligned directly to Wit and Wisdom that really help strengthen that background knowledge as they align directly to the content that students are learning within the Wit and Wisdom program, and then also all of the decodable texts that we have through our decodable libraries. So in order to develop proficient, skilled readers, all of these things must be incorporated. Okay. So over the spring and summer, the district formed a committee and also attended a session through BOCES to examine more closely the requirements of the attestation. So through our internal review, we were able to demonstrate that our literacy curriculum is evidence-based, scientifically aligned, and consistent with the science of reading. So this image here shows the various literacy programs that the district has adopted. And although it wasn't the main part of the attestation, we were also required to attest that our reading interventions are part of an aligned plan at the district level that are designed to improve reading outcomes, a lot of which Dr. McFarland spoke to previously. So the first part, having an aligned curriculum, is our foundational first step that we really want to ensure that we have firmly in place. We are fortunate that as a district, we began examining the science of reading several years ago, and we ensured that any new curriculum adopted was aligned with that research. So we're pleased to report that this is an area in which we are on track and likely ahead of many districts. As you can see on this slide, it does say curriculum and instructional best practices. So the next component of that attestation really looks at the instructional practices occurring in our classrooms. So the way that the attestation was developed, marking yes, is an indication that all grades in all district programs are fully aligned to every required best practice. It wasn't a partial alignment or somewhat or any indicator. They were a yes or a no. So that brings us to our next step. So we have identified that our curriculum is aligned. So now our focus is really on strengthening how it is implemented across the district as we move from curriculum to classroom. So we are seeking to strengthen implementation in several key ways. First, we are leveraging the expertise of our certified district trainers. We have some teachers who have been trained in Foundations, which is our pre-K 3 phonics program. We have some people that are trained in letters training, which is the language essentials for teachers of reading and spelling. That's not a program, but it's really digs into the how students learn to read. In addition, we are developing a strategic literacy professional development plan, and one that moves beyond voluntary sign-up based sessions and instead integrates intentional curriculum-aligned training into required learning structures, such as our mandatory department meetings and our superintendent's conference day. We want to make sure that all of our teachers are receiving this instruction and professional development as it relates to how best to implement the programs that we know are aligned. But we know a great curriculum it doesn't matter if it has failed implementation. So that's really where our focus is. So we're trying to be really intentional that it's not just offerings at times for people to sign up for. Several of our teachers and administrators have completed science of reading training, or they are currently participating in a cohort offered through NYSA. We are continuing to build capacity, not just among teachers, but also our administrators. So some of that includes planning guided walkthroughs at buildings, which we are working on developing. That would be a group of district administrators, some of those Foundations trained coaches to go in with the group and go with those building administrators in to do some classrooms observations and lessons, and then have the opportunity to discuss and debrief and talk about what we saw, how should something be implemented, what are some key strategies that we can then focus on to move the work forward. We are seeking to also identify some model classrooms. Where have we found that these is going really well, and our teachers, are demonstrating great strengths in the implementation of a certain program, and how can we set them up to be a model classroom for their peers? It's really important for our teachers to be able to see practice in action and to see it with our students. So looking to identify some of those model classrooms. And then also ensuring that the high leverage practices that we promote are aligned with curriculum specific best practice. So in some instances, we have identified that we may need a curriculum specific rubric to monitor implementation more effectively. So those are some of the things that we are working to develop. that when we're going in, if something is too broad or isn't really aligned with the way a certain program should be implemented, we want to make sure that what we're looking for is reflective in the tool that we're using to really ensure that we are implementing with fidelity. Building principals will also have the opportunity to review the attestation work and examine literacy data during their administrative PLCs, and this will help them create targeted action steps to drive literacy instruction forward and ensure consistent implementation across the district. So that brings us to where we are now with what's next is really our monitoring plan. We will continue to monitor curriculum implementation through data that is collected within our walkthrough tool, through classroom observations, lesson plan reviews, and assessment results. And then we will use the data to identify gaps and drive our professional development. And all of this is to continue strengthening our implementation. One recent improvement is how we have started to collect some of the early literacy assessment data. So we now have that data being entered into eDoctrina, which is a digital platform. So that helps us to ensure that it is consistently recorded and it's easily accessible for district review. A lot of data has been collected in years prior, but it may have just been done individually at the building level, where building administrators were looking at their own data, teachers were using their own data to drive instruction. But it's important that we have a repository where we can look at this data at the district level and we can really examine it and we can look at it more broadly across the district to then really narrow our focus and look at where those gaps still exist, to be really intentional in what we need to put into those professional development plans and how we need to, what we need to provide at some of those trainings, and where we need to really capitalize on ensuring teachers have what they need to be successful. So with that database too, it will allow us to more effectively analyze our current literacy progress, examine our trends year over year, and track cohort performance. Additionally, Annalie is looking at some other professional learning series that are in direct alignment with the science of reading, particular to our English language learners. I don't know if there's anything else that you wanted to share about that, but I will turn it back to you.
So in an effort to leverage and celebrate students' home language and dialects, we will be holding professional learning series around the science of reading with English language learners. None of the components change, but the emphasis on oral language and vocabulary increases because students who are learning English are at step 0 rather than at step 1 of language acquisition. When you are listening in your mother's belly, listening to her voice and listening to your language and born, you hear a lot of that language, where kids who are English language learners may have never been exposed to English or have limited exposure or have simultaneous exposure. And so we have to take a step back and focus on other components. And so we want to make sure that as the state is rolling out these supports, that we're making sure our teachers are well versed on that as well. So translanguaging, metalinguistic awareness, which is thinking about how language compares, and you heard some of our students talk about that cross-linguistic transfer, which was perfect. I didn't pay them to do that. And again, that oral language as essential components of supporting students who are learning a language and or a dialect of language. Additionally, those of us who work with English language learners and who work with really addressing academic and linguistic demands, it's for everybody. It's not just for kids who are identified, right? All kids are learning, whether it's their one language or whether it's a home and a new language. And so the state also has a resource specifically for ELS, academic and linguistic demands, which breaks down those standards, but really it can be leveraged to move all kids through the continuum of learning a language deeply. And so we want to make sure that our teachers are well versed in doing that. For families, right? We ask parents to read and or tell stories to children every day, visit local libraries for story times, engage in lots of conversations, answer all those why questions that kids like to ask, and ask them why and how often. Communicate with their children's teacher, ask questions after read-alouds or storytelling Want to honor the fact that not all cultures spend a lot of time in books, but storytelling is still an effective way to build comprehension. It's important that multilingual families focus on their home language at home. It's the greatest asset to teach students transferable language skills in the language and culture that is already important and key and valuable in their home. That piece will support students as they're learning English as a second language or as an additional language. And additionally, we are working with our colleagues and community to see how we can leverage parent forums, expand our family literacy program, and have some of our volunteers, like Reading is Fun, support students in developing that love for reading and that comprehension. And we've done some things in the past with Right to Read, really educating people about that national literacy crisis and how we want to move things forward. So, thank you. I'm going to open it back up to the team for questions. And I'll be here in the wings.
Yep, Board Member Alexandria.
Thank you. I love to hear the intentional training and not just the volunteer opportunity, so thank you for that. I have a question around monitoring. So with your monitoring plan, how often does that happen? And then the second part of that is when you recognize that there are gaps during that, are we addressing those gaps right when they're recognized, or are we waiting until the end of the year when you review the data in its entirety?
So there's a couple of things we're monitoring, and then Just can jump in. We are monitoring high leverage practices, which are specifically around teaching in general, and those everyone gets in where they fit in. So we have ELT members, we have OTL members, we have principals, everyone's getting in and collecting that data. We're gonna review that data at all of our admin PLCs. But specifically what Jess has been talking about is how do we do implementation of foundations? Because when I looked for that explicit instruction, that walkthrough tool fits into science and social studies and when you're doing a read aloud and whatnot, but doesn't fit necessarily for this explicit piece. And so that's what we're trying to build. I think on another end, the ladies can talk to you about how they've been doing it informally while we develop that tool.
Yeah, so just to build off of that a little bit, we're not waiting until the end of the year to then look at everything all together. So there's multiple components like throughout that monitoring. Some of that monitoring consists of, like I said, with the walkthrough tool. So those walkthroughs are happening in classrooms daily. So that's an instantaneous way to be able to walk through and to be able to provide a teacher feedback. Same thing like with those guided walkthroughs that we talked about. That's helping us as administrators build that capacity and be able to calibrate on what we're seeing so that we are giving consistent and correct feedback. Because like we've mentioned, some of it is really program specific versus what you might be looking for in a history lesson or something else. So we want to make sure that the feedback we can give is immediate and actionable, at the same time looking at that long-term plan. And also some of the assessment data, right? Teachers are always looking at their assessment data as they're giving ongoing assessments that's really driving their instruction, but we'll be looking to, you know, as a district and some of that assessment data that we're collecting 3 times a year. So that's not going to be that immediate, but we're going to be looking at that and trends and then identifying, you know, what are we seeing and then how can we continue to build into some of the long-term planning. Some of it may be that we have, if we're going in and we're noticing some things, we may look to our instructional coaches and say, this is what some of our data is currently showing us. This is what we need PD on, and we may really work with, if it can't be done at like a mandatory thing, right, and we're seeing some things, we may say, how can we fit this in? This would be great based on what you're seeing, and we're seeing all of these wonderful things, and here's how we can build on this, and this would be a great resource for you. So it's kind of like twofold. It's happening in the moment. We certainly don't want to wait. We want immediate actionable feedback, but we also need to be intentional about our long-term planning as well.
Thank you.
Board members? Board Member Vivian? My question.
I'm sorry.
No, so my first question is, I recently saw some data that supports frequent breaks, frequent student movement in the classroom might actually help with better retention and better focus. Is that something that we might have already looked into by chance?
You know, I think that's something that teachers often incorporate in their daily practice, whether they're, you know, giving students brain breaks or they're up or they're moving. A lot of things, you know, it's kind of what are your students needing in that moment too, and it's as you're standing in front of the classroom, how are you being responsive to your students' needs as they're in front of you? I think our teachers, you know, do a really great job about recognizing that. So we haven't looked specifically, I don't think, at.
I mean, I think it's built into
yeah.
some of the curricular pieces, like in Wit and Wisdom, a big part of it is student collaboration. And so you'll do a thing like mix and mingle, which means you have something written on your card and I'm gonna tell you it's time to mix and you get up and move around the room. And when I say stop, you mingle with the person next to you and you're sharing what's on your card. So yes, it's the collaboration and oral language, but it's also the movement part that's built in. So you're getting some of that. And I was even thinking as you were saying that when our littlest ones are learning their skywriting as part of foundations. So it's not necessarily a whole body movement, but there is this, we're very specific about making those letters and air writing them, right? They call it skywriting because that movement does help integrate the knowledge of the letter just in a different way. So I think some of those things are built into the curriculum too. And yes, to Jess's point, I think our teachers also recognize the importance of like a brain break. I was in a 3rd grade classroom today and I felt like I also had to participate and said brain break. And like if you thought the cupcake was the way to go versus the Jell-O, you had to do like toe touches and stuff. So by the end, I felt like I'd had a little bit of a workout. But I think those things are happening in a lot of different ways. And we are lucky enough that in our curriculum too, there are pieces of that already built in.
Sure. Thank you. So my next question, I know obviously it will be too soon for our littles, right, our pre-K through grade 2, but have we found for later grades that there may in fact be a connection between homework practice and level of proficiency?
I think that's a really challenging thing to quantify, right? Because we would say all the time, we want you to be reading at home, we want you to have exposure to books, right? Our geodes are digital. There is fluency practice that we encourage students to do, but having a way to track that is a little bit different. So I think that's why we try so hard to account for what happens, you know, in our classrooms and when our students are with us, but certainly also why we try to continue those other connections. Like we do have in our libraries where the school librarian will make sure the students get library cards, and some of those that are in walking distance will take the students to the library and make sure they get that exposure. So trying to create that energy around it so that students want to do it, so that families know the resources they have to access it, but trying to quantify that as a separate sort of data point would be pretty challenging unless we were relying on self-reporting.
Understood. No, that makes sense. My last question for you. I'm noticing per the chart that you guys provided, we have about 80% of our English language learners are on Tier 1 supports. So for our native English speaking students, right, are we making sure that we're grasping and we're gathering in all of our native language speaking students who may also need Tier 1 supports?
So everybody should have access, and this is one of the things I feel like we've really worked on in the time that I've been here, is making sure that everybody gets rigorous, grade level, Tier 1 curriculum. So every student in every grade, pre-K through 3, gets Tier 1 foundations.
So across the nation, what we're seeing more as a problem is people are getting their Tier 2 and Tier 3. But if I'm constantly remediating at a grade level below, you can never attain that grade level. So we're really focused on Tier 1. Yes, we make sure that interventions are in place, that people are providing them, But I think as a nation, we're really focused on that tier 1 because that's what's missing and that's what's represented in your data, the absence of that.
And I think you would often hear us say too, right, to Becky's point, that implementation of that rigorous tier 1, right? We want to make sure that all of our students are held to the same high expectation, and we're not lowering the bar. So it's about scaffolding up. So it's not changing the text that's in front of them, but it's then providing the support so they're still accessing the same text with the same rich vocabulary words that they're being exposed to.
Thank you.
Other questions?
I'm good. So I have an I wonder around the walkthrough. So are the walkthroughs informal or formal? And what I mean by that, are the teachers aware of what that walkthrough is going to be looking for? So is it phonics, is it skywriting, is there a specific target when they're walking into the walkthrough, or is it pretty much general?
Well, so similarly to the way when we did guided walkthroughs when we first adopted Wit and Wisdom, right? It was a lot of the practices exist in good instruction, but it was specific to what did that look like in Wit and Wisdom. And because Foundations is a very explicit, aligned curriculum, we have to have the same thing. Like when you go in, here is what you want to see, and so we'll specifically speak to those things. Versus when you go in and our regular walkthrough might have something around questioning because that's a priority for us, right? It doesn't work the same in Foundations because we want people to teach it in that very explicit way, and so it'll be very aligned. But our teachers who have the curriculum and know those strategies and steps will know exactly what we mean when we say we're doing Foundations walkthroughs.
Yeah, and the indicators on the walkthrough are not a surprise to the teacher.
Okay.
So they know what those are, and that's feedback that they get immediately. So if we were to go in one of those, guided walkthroughs where we're looking specifically at a certain curriculum and we're debriefing and calibrating ourselves, we would identify which administrator is going to complete the walkthrough to give the feedback. So not all 5 of us are, sending away, but it's digital on there, and the teachers get it immediately. So they do get that from the Bullseye walkthrough tool. They get their feedback right away. But yes, the indicators on there wouldn't be a surprise to the teachers.
Thank you. And then my other question was around the data, and so there seems like there's a lot of data that's being gathered. I wonder again in the conversations, because you mentioned that there's conversations that are going to be happening with the teachers, and I know in elementary school, the schedule is difficult. Like PLCs are really not a thing. So I'm wondering, how is that being done? Like literally having a conversation with the teachers about the data and what are some areas of growth, what are some strengths? So if you can talk a little bit about that.
There's a couple different ways, and I'll have the ladies walk through specifically on the tool. But recently, Tia held an elementary principal meeting, and so the principals were able to walk through that data. We'll look at some of that data at our superintendent's conference day and department meetings. Right now we're gathering. I know that Jess does them at her department meetings as well with the pre-K. And then when they work on Bullseye, the ladies can tell you a little bit about how they get that specifically, and they get to interact with teachers in that way. And then what the follow-up looks like if there's any in-person contact.
I think if buildings too, we're looking at their building level data. It's certainly something that they could have conversations with teachers at their, building faculty meetings or things like that if they needed to incorporate a data conversation into that, if they were seeing a larger global trend across their building versus, more specific, teacher-specific conversations. I think that those are just, those would just be carved out, at that time or feedback through that tool. Or catching the teacher quickly just to give some of that quick feedback. And then some of that, could be shared with us. Sometimes administrators may reach out and say, hey, I don't have an instructional coach in my building, but I am noticing this gap. Is there any way that we can have our team work with the instructional coach? And our instructional coaches have been very flexible. They provide a lot of professional development for the district. So not just like the buildings that they're assigned to, But when we have, or building administrators have identified needs and we've had to tap into our coaches for some of that support, we've been able to do so.
And I do think principals try to be really creative. And with the lack of, as you mentioned, of an official PLC time, right? They try to find opportunities. And I think a lot of our teachers, when they're scheduled lines up and they're free at the same time, that planning is at the same time, they're leaning into that too. Because I think to the question you asked before about monitoring, when I think about monitoring at like the student classroom level, as a teacher every day when I do my foundations lesson, I am watching who is getting what part. And then when I'm thinking about what I'm teaching tomorrow, I'm picking the words or I'm picking the sounds or I'm picking the syllable based on what I saw in that lesson the day before. And so it's meant to be really responsive. So as we said in the really beginning, we can get to that 90% where 90% of kids leave kindergarten with all of their letters and sounds, right? So that is what starts to flip the triangle, right? The goal is always at least 85% of your students getting everything they need from tier 1. And so teachers, I think, are really on board with that too, and looking at that formative assessment every single day. So then when they have the opportunity to talk to a colleague and talk to a building leader or a coach or anybody, they want that feedback and they want that conversation and know what's next.
And some of that through, so our recent department meetings, we have by content area. So for ELA and literacy, we were able to meet with our K1 and 2 teachers already. So when we know that we have that captive audience and this is a required meeting, we capitalized on that and we worked on foundations with those teachers. And the coaches put together some great presentations, but they adjusted, instead of just like delivering something, they have set it up like study groups. And that has been very well received. And I actually just received an email this afternoon from one of the coaches. I have a great idea about the study groups and professional development moving forward. And I get just as excited when they're that excited, and you know, we're all ready to go. But with those study groups, it's almost like when you see it starting to take off, it's going to be that ripple effect because somebody's not going to want to get left behind, right? Well, all of my colleagues are really doing this and this is happening and students are seeing gains. I want to make sure that I am on board as well, and they're having that opportunity then to talk about and to collaborate and to go through, because it is a comprehensive program. You can't sit through professional development once and be like, yep, I got it, I'm good to go and this is it. It has to be ongoing there because it builds and it is that systematic explicit program, and it's continuously different, but there are learning activities that stay the same throughout it. So we want to make sure that our teachers are well equipped to implement those learning activities. So that's one thing that our coaches are doing, is starting to set up some of that professional development in the model of like study groups.
Thank you. Board Member Kathy, thank you.
I'm looking at the slide on New York State assessments for English language arts, the ones that show the grade proficiencies of 3 and 4. So these are the young people who are achieving at the highest level, and your efforts are being directed to those that are 1 and 2. And what happens in terms of keeping them engaged at the 3 and 4 level, particularly if they're at that in grade 3 and hopefully will continue on? You know, are there additional programs developed for them, you know, for gifted students, or how does that work?
I can give you an example that we just witnessed. We went to one of our schools, and one of the things that they have done for those students reading on grade level who really need to be accelerated is they have book studies according to their Lexile level. So rather than, you know, they're not in need of a remediation intervention, they are hitting more of those books that they probably wouldn't get as part of their core curriculum if they're at a higher Lexile level. And so at that particular school, we saw 3 or 4 that are hitting that. We're kind of doing a case study on it to see how we accelerate those kids, and I think then that could transfer across buildings.
That's what I wanted to know, is how you would keep them engaged in learning more. And so it's different books that are available to them.
And I want to say though, there's so many ways beyond, right? A different book at a higher level is certainly a way, but there's also ways within your classroom, we had a secondary department meeting today too, and so I was with the high school English teachers, and we were talking about the power of good questioning and inquiry-based learning, actually, as it relates to the portrait of a graduate, right? And the importance of critical thinking and problem solving. And so I taught AP Lit, and I would give my students children's books, but we would look at them through a very different lens with very different questions. And that was incredibly challenging for them, right? Especially to take something they thought they knew and to see it differently. And so I think it is that sometimes the way we ask them to look at it, having a different spin on it, the questions we ask, how much we ask them to engage with a text in a really high level. And you could all have the same text, but your work in it feels different.
I'm quite pleased, to see the improvements in the levels 3 and 4, and maybe get up to 100%.
Right, one thing.
And then you can figure out what to do with it.
That's it. That's it.
Any other questions, board members? I do have one more question. How are we engaging, if you can talk a little specifically about how are we engaging families and parents around many of the different programs that we have and how they can support their children at home?
I mean, we do, and I was just in a workbook today, again, because I was in a 3rd grade. And so we have the family sheets that can go home from the workbooks, and some schools will send it as part of like their newsletter, because it'll share like, here's the topic, 3rd grade module 1 is the sea, right? And so that goes home, and we're learning about sharks and giant squids, which, by the way, today I learned they have 3 brains. I did not know.
The shark or the squid?
The squids.
Oh.
Giant squids have 3. Octopus have 9, in case you're wondering. 1 big one and 8 smaller ones. Lots I learned today, just being in the 3rd grade. But those things can go home, and then the encouragement is have this conversation with your student. They're learning about all these really cool things. Here are ways you can incorporate that at home. So there are those family letters for each grade level, for each module, that can go home. So that, again, just the conversation, even if it connects to things that maybe are part of their family or things they already know and do, that I think can be really beneficial.
That's helpful. Thank you. Any other questions?
One last question. Are there still 46 phonemes? Do I remember that correctly?
There are 46 phonemes.
Okay.
Which is what makes the English language so complicated.
Right? We've got 26 letters, we've got 46
They like to switch it up on you.
It's so complex.
We appreciate the presentation, and I really like the NAEP, because this is really important. And board members, I urge you, I haven't looked at this one, but I think it's really important to look at the national, to really compare it to how we're doing. Not saying that we can't exceed that, but I think that gives a good lens. So I appreciate that, and also the many layers that you shared today around K-2 literacy. So thank you so much. Thank you. Okay. So under unfinished business, so we're moving to unfinished business very quickly. So under unfinished business, our December 3rd meeting will focus on school culture and climate, including our continued conversation around suspension practices, which we review each year. The district will also provide updated data from September through December as part of our regular review process. Reminder, board members, you may submit any questions in advance to Board Clerk Michelle, so the presentation so that can be included in the presentation. And I do thank some board members that have shared some of those questions. And I will thank everyone again for their presentations, and also the students that attended, and also the teachers. Thank you so much for preparing for the presentations today. We appreciate it. So yes.
I have one question regarding the trip.
Yeah, sure.
Do we need to approve their taking the trip by our policy that we had? Or, I mean, it could be done at the next time, but I'm just saying that since we.
I think the policy is to acknowledge the trip. I don't know if it's an approval with.
I thought there was a sign off, but it had to be reviewed with us and so on. So I just wanted to make sure.
Per the process, yeah.
Approved, yes, okay.
So it does
we
have
can
to.
get that to you well in advance.
So I'll
do it
move
right
that we
now.
approve the
That's
trip.
right, we don't have a resolution.
I can scroll it out.
See, I want y'all to go. I'll move it. Okay, so at the next meeting, we will officially have the resolution. Okay.
That's what I meant,
Yeah, well, okay, yes, thank you. Okay, so thank you. All right.
So we'll have a resolution at our next meeting to approve this trip.
Okay, so at this time, I will ask for a motion to enter an exec session to discuss a particular student matter related to an appeal, which must be held in executive session to protect the student's privacy. May I have a motion? Thank you, thank you, Board Member Kathy. Second, thank you, Board Member Amanda. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Have a good evening, everyone. Thank you.
Have a good trip if we don't see you. I know it's 3 months away. Send me my travel information, Dr.
Yes.
Two and a half.